on a hilltop overlooking the valley. There's a dogwood tree like no man's ever seen. The trunk is so large and the limbs are so strong.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Lonnie Jones' life story and what God's done for me. And he's done an awful lot for me. Don't forget, ask yourself what he's done for you. Because I promise you, he's done something for you and didn't pay much attention to what it was. But he's always there. Never let you down. We were talking about being down on Garner Creek and about the creek getting muddy when it rained up north and it rise and everything. Well, let me tell you a little about the creek down there where it was at. It was called Garner's Creek, and our house sat sort of like in a bend. The creek would come down, and then take a sharp right and go around the house. Well, the house was sitting on, as I told you before, sitting on flat rocks, not blocks, not bricks, sitting on flat rocks. And underneath the house, of course, had the chickens and everything running around the house. Well, that creek would get up, and we had to go. And when I went to, I'll tell you about riding the school bus here in a minute, but when we would start to, when it would come a big rain up north or even at the house, that creek would get up. And it got up high enough a time or two that it actually ran under the house. And I actually saw muskrats swimming out from under the house. Muskrats. And most of you out there know what a muskrat is. But they make little holes inside the banks of the creek and everything. But it got high enough 2 or 3 different times that water would get up and go under the house. And you could see muskrats would swim out from under the house. And of course, it would eventually go back down. And we had an old barn set up on the hill back behind the house. That's where we kept our mules, and we had a corn crib up there in it. We had a hay loft up there, and we kept the hay up there. And we had a little smokehouse off to the left there at the edge of the creek. And in the edge of it, we had chickens had their nest on the side of the smokehouse. And the smokehouse is where Daddy kept some of his big barrels that kept the beer in. Before whiskey becomes whiskey, you have to make it out of whatever you're going to make it out of. It has to sour, and it has to come to where it's alcohol itself, and then it gets cooked down into pure alcohol from that. But that's where Dad would keep about 3 or 4 of his barrels. And I'll tell you one thing while we're talking about making whiskey. One thing that we would make whiskey out of was elderberries. And most of you out there, I know people out there my age knows what an elderberry is. Well, they grow out on the side of the road in bushes. We'd go out on Sunday afternoon, and we'd get just tons and tons of elderberries, and Daddy would come back and mash them up and put them in a barrel, put sugar and water in there, and it would ferment to a point it was beer, and then he would cook it off. So elderberry brandy. And you hear about peach brandy, and you hear about apple brandy, you can hear about all kinds of brandies, you can hear about anything you want to. Well, let me tell you, it all comes out of the still clear. It all comes out clear. It does not come out, and it don't taste like a peach when it comes out. There's no peach taste to it. It just happened to be peach brandy or apple brandy or whatever it may be, or corn liquor, whatever it is, it comes out clear as a bell. You can put a gallon jug, put it in a gallon jug, and you read the newspaper on the other side of that gallon jug, you got some real moonshine. And Daddy ran moonshine off what we call copper. It was a big copper kettle. And copper is very sanitary. It's easy to keep clean. And it's no danger of you catching anything from making whiskey in a copper still. And a copper still, for those of you who don't know what a copper still is, or haven't been into one of these refineries down here, downtown or whatever, our particular copper still was a 20 gallon copper boiler. and Daddy had a special made top that went onto it, and out of that top was a hole, and there was what they call a lead pipe that come up out of that hole and went over to a worm barrel, what we call a worm barrel. In that barrel, there was a copper tube, went round and around, coil, like this. It went out, and it come out the bottom of that barrel, which that barrel was a wooden barrel. And that barrel had to be kept cold water in it, because when that whiskey is cooking off, steam goes up this copper lead pipe. It goes down that lead pipe, and when it hits that worm, it's in that worm barrel with cold water, it turns to liquid just like that. The steam turns to liquid. And how we kept that boiler from leaking all of your alcohol out when it was boiling in the boiler is we would make up dough. We'd roll up dough. And around that lid, it had a little lip around it. We'd roll up dough about big as around your finger, run it around that lid, and then we'd set the lid on there. And then Daddy would lay some big rocks on it to hold it down, and it wouldn't leak around that dough. He done the same thing with the lead pipe, where the lead pipe went down into the top of the steel. You put dough around that. When that dough got hot and got hard, it wouldn't leak. Same thing down when it went into the worm, down in the worm barrel. And so when it went out in steam, turned in liquid, then it would come out in a little old stream no bigger than a match. It would come out in a stream no bigger than a match. It would take us 4 to 6 hours to cook off 5 gallons of whiskey. Now that, when we're sitting there in the moonlight, and we always cooked it off at night. You never cooked it when it was raining, because all the neighbors could see the smoke, and they'd know what you was doing. They'd call a law on you. But anyway, make a long story short, and you had to make whiskey where there was water. It had to be water, because you had, after about an hour, that worm barrel, it would get hot down there about a foot and a half deep. That water would get hot. You would have to dip that hot water out, put cold water in it. If you ever let that get all hot, it'd be steam all the way down coming out. So you never ever let that worm barrel with the worm in it, and we didn't call it worm, it was in a circle like this, in a copper tubing, and it had to stay cold all the time, so when that steam hit it, it would turn to liquid. So it would take about 4 or 5 hours to 6 hours, even 6 hours. I don't think we ever cooked 5 gallons in 4 hours. It'd take half a night. Well, the thing about making the whiskey was we made it at night. Well, worked all day in a hay field, come home, chop up the wood, cook breakfast the next morning, the kindling, feed the hogs and feed the chickens and feed the cows, feed the horses, and then go make whiskey for 6 hours. So that don't sound a whole lot like white privilege, does it? I didn't have much privilege. We didn't know what white privilege was. I won't get into that. We don't need to get into that. But the point being, we worked hard, and we worked long hours. And Vincent and Daly's got a song out called "The Working Man Blues." Work long hours by the sweat of my brow. It's a great song. If you ever get a chance to listen, Daly and Vincent listen to it, called "Working Man Blues." It's so fast, I can't even think half fast them boys playing that thing, but they're awesome. But anyway, back to the old farm, we'd work doing whatever we'd do that day, and then make whiskey. Now, we'd only do this about every 2 weeks, and the reason for being is Daddy was a very small operation, and it took 5 to 7 days for when you put your sugar, your cornmeal, whatever you were making in there with the water into your barrels. It took approximately 5 to 7 days for that to work, what they call work off, for it to become alcohol or beer that you could cook off and make whiskey out of. So it would take that long. So we would never make whiskey. It'd be about 10, 12 days before we'd make another run of 5 gallons. And let me explain something else to you about making the whiskey. When we got 5 gallon or 6 gallon, whatever it would make, how Daddy checked it when he would hold the lid of the jug and catch it coming out. And he throwed it on the fire, and if it didn't burn, if that what he caught coming out of that worm did not burn when it hit that fire, he cut it off. He kicked the fire out from under it right then, because we done got all the alcohol out of it we'd gonna get out of it. And we would end up with, believe this or not, about 3 gallons of pure whiskey, pure alcohol, like 110 proof. So then what we would do then, not that night, but the next night, we would take that whiskey. Daddy would got this big stainless steel tub about that big around, and a dipper and spring water. And Daddy didn't have one of these fancy things you stick down in and tell you what proof it was. Daddy could take it, pour that water in it, mix it, pour that water in it, mix it, till he could tell you exactly when it was 80 or 90 proof by the beads around the edges of the tub. He could see how big those beads are, how blue they were, how big they were, and he knew when to stop adding spring water to it. So he mixed it with spring water. When we got done mixing those 3 gallons, we'd end up with about 5 gallons. Sometimes a little over 5 gallons, but most time around 5 gallons of pure white lightning, moonshine, that everybody wanted. They still do. They're still making it down there today. I don't know who and where, but they are making it still today. But that's how that's the true way of how the old timers made the moonshine back then. They make it now totally different than we did then. They have to go through pretty much the same procedures, but they make it in huge quantities. They got to furnish the world with it, and we was only furnishing one little old town with it. So we were very small individuals trying to do something to make a little extra money to make a living. But that's how you done it, and I'll promise you this right here, whether it was peaches or apples or elderberries or corn liquor, you could not taste the different types of stuff it was made out of. You could not taste that it was peach. You couldn't taste a bit of peach in it. All that gets cooked out of it. It gets purified. It's like purifying water. Purified water has no taste. Think about it. Go get you a gallon of purified water. See how much you taste it. There's no taste. It has no taste. And so does whiskey. The same way. Whatever you make it out of, it does not taste like that. Now, don't mean they can't call it that, because you can call it peach brandy because it's the truth. It was made out of peaches. But it don't mean it's going to taste like peach. Now, here's what some of them would do. And I'll tell you a little story. Not too long ago happened to me up here at a restaurant. A lot of the people back then would take, there was more moonshiners than Daddy, but a lot of the moonshiners would take peach juice, and they would actually put a little peach juice in their whiskey, and that would color it. That would make it sort of a yellow golden tone look. And then it would you could taste that little peach in it. Well, a lot of people didn't know the difference. And today, 90% of the people don't know the difference. But if you don't put that peach taste in it, it's not going to taste like peach. And Daddy always colored his whiskey with sugar. He would burn sugar. He would burn sugar to a golden brown. And most of the time he had one customer that wanted it colored, okay? He wanted color to it. Didn't make a bit of difference in how it tasted or how it looked, or nothing other than the fact it would make it look gold, or it would make it look like it was bonded whiskey that people would pay taxes on. So Daddy would burn sugar and color his with it when they wanted colored. Another way Daddy colored his was he charred kegs just like Jack Daniel does. All those kegs that Jack Daniel has, they have been burned inside. They got charcoal inside of them. You put that whiskey in there and you leave it for 5 years, and that whiskey will come out with a charcoal color. Now, I'm giving some lessons here. I want to charge for these lessons. Don't y'all go out there and start making whiskey now. That's against the law, unless you got the license to do it. But the whiskey you see sitting on the shelves in these liquor stores and at restaurants, most of that whiskey was come out of a charred barrel. White oak. White oak is what they were. They wasn't red oak. They wasn't hickory. They wasn't ash. They were white oak. Only white oak can you make a barrel that will hold liquid in it, because white oak will seal itself off. Red oak, it bleeds through. It will bleed through. Red oak will bleed through. And it was a pretty expensive lesson they learned about that. But we used to cut, that's something else that we used to do in the country. We cut what they call stave bolts. Those stave bolts is what they carried to the mill and made the staves. That's what a barrel is made of, are staves. They're called staves. And when they're in the woods being cut into white oak, being cut into the right lengths, they're called stave bolts. But then when they get done with them, they're called staves, and they're bit, and they're made to go together with that ring around them, and they'll put water in them, and them things won't leak a drop if they're white oak. If they're red oak, that's another story. But that's a little lesson there in making whiskey and how we made whiskey and when we made whiskey that was down on Garner Street. We down on Garner Street where we moved to, and so what we're going to do now, I'm going to tell you my little story now of what happened to me Wednesday, which was yesterday. I have a guy comes over here and cleans up the shop and mows my yard and weed eats and all that stuff while I'm doing other things. And to make a long story short, we haven't cooked anything here in a long time. We got refrigerators back here running. We got coolers running. So Rita wanted to clean the cooler out and get rid of the grease, French fried grease and all that stuff, and clean all that stuff up and get everything cleaned up for when we do come get to open back up. Everything will be good and clean. Everything will be new, fresh, and ready to go. Well, this boy, first thing he done, broke the belt on the lawnmower. Didn't get to finish that. So while he said he didn't get to finish that, I let him come into the kitchen down here at Larry's Garner Garage and told him to clean the cooler out and clean the French fry machine out, get everything back in tip-top shape, good and clean, and we'd be done for the day. So I wasn't doing what I was doing. So about time for him to go home, I come down here and he was just winding everything up in the kitchen here at Larry's Garner Garage. Now this is what God does for you. This is all about God now. It's not about me. It's not about the guy, weed-eating guy. It's about what's God. God's got you right there. He's right there. So we're going to record our first program, episode 1. We were going to do episode 1. And we were going to do that Wednesday night, and we was going to show it then at 7 o'clock. Well, I had turned the air conditioning and everything on down here. And about when that boy left, I had turned the air conditioner on down here so it would be cool so as we could do our show. Well, Rita gets home about 6 o'clock. Now, mind you, he left about 2:30 to be exact. He left at 2:30. So I had the air conditioner on down here. She got home. I told her, I said, air conditioner, everything on is ready to go. And I said, we can go down and record our first episode. She said, well, I've been thinking about it. I've got to do some stuff on the computer out in the office before we can actually do that. She said, I don't know exactly how long it's going to take. I said, okay, that's fine. So she went on. So about an hour went by, and I seen we was going to be pushed for time. So by that time, she comes back in, says, we're really not going to be able to get this done and get it shown tonight. I said, well, I tell you what, I'll just go down and cut the air conditioner and everything off. And she said, that's a big idea. Then we'll do it. We'll do it Wednesday afternoon and still get it on Wednesday night. But anyway, that didn't happen Wednesday night either. But we got it on Thursday morning, I guess it was. This morning, wasn't it? So, but anyway, so what I done is I started down the driveway, and I had just bought this pickup truck, and I had the battery on charge. And I thought I smelt the battery maybe getting too hot. And I said, well, let's not go in a hurry because it's about to click off anyway. So I come on down to come in the end door to Larry's grand old garage. And I immediately smelt something I should have never smelled. I smelled heat, hot. I'm talking hot. I'm not talking about warm. I'm talking about hot. I opened the door, walked in here. I knew right away something was wrong in the kitchen. I walk in the kitchen. It's 150 degrees in the kitchen, and our grill is wide open. We have a cover, a stainless steel cover that goes over our grill. We put over our grill after we get done grilling. That thing had got hot and bowed up in the middle. It was 150 degrees in that kitchen if it was one. It was 150 degrees in that kitchen. To make a long story short, God had me come back down here at the time that I needed to come down there 1 more hour, and Larry's grand old garage probably wouldn't have been here. Because both burners was wide open, and I'm talking about hot. It was hot. Grabbed the door handle, opened up the door to let the air out in there, and the door handle burnt my hand. That's how hot it was in here. Well, all these things that didn't come out like we thought they ought to, just when we thought they ought to come out, caused me to come back down here to do what I had to do. God sent me down here. God had everything in the world to do that for me, us not doing what we was going to do, and now come on down here to cut the air conditioner off. Had God not had it work out the way it worked out, probably the place would have burnt down. So, make a long story short, that's 2 things God has done for me this week, just this week. And my life goes like that all the time. And I have to tell somebody. I can't keep it in because I have to tell you, anyone that don't believe there's a God or don't believe in God, there's something wrong with them. Bad wrong with them. And I'm telling you right now, that's 2 things this week He has taken care of me on. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to sit here and tell my story to all the people. Before this is over, there'll be thousands of people see this. And hope to God it touches them to stop and just think, what is God doing for me right now? What did He do for me today that I normally wouldn't pay attention to? You don't pay attention to it if you don't have Him on your mind. Remember that. God always, and when you put God out, you're done. It's done. And that's something I do want to say. This country's got to come bring God back into this country. We've got to get rid of the devil in this country. Or this country was built on Christianity from day one. This United States was built on Christianity, and we got to bring Christianity back into the United States of America, not shut God out, or we are in whole up. Looks bad now, but God can take care of it. But we got to bring Him back into it. Are we going to do a couple of songs on this show? I don't even think we had picked out what we was going to do on this one, Mother. Did we?
Well, I'm going to do.
You know what you're going to do?
I'm going to do Crying Holy.
Well, I may have to borrow your iPad and find one on there because I don't know anything much by heart. But we're going to sort of end this episode. This was episode 3, I believe. Is that right, Rita? We're on episode 3. Mm-hmm. And I think we ought to do one more tonight.
We do Help Is on the Way.
You got the words to it, ain't you?
I do.
We can do Help Is on the Way when it comes to my time. Let me take a little sip of my stuff here.
And I'm going to be in G.
You're going to be in G. And we're going to, let this be the end of episode 3. You got a lesson in whiskey making. You got another lesson, not a lesson, you already have that lesson of what God can do for you. Look around, see what He's done for you this week. Trick to it is keep him right here. Keep Him on your mind. Right now we're going to get ready to do one Crying Holy. Let's do it, girl.
Lord, I ain't no stranger now. Lord, I ain't no stranger now. I've been introduced to the Father and the Son. Lord, I ain't If I could, I surely would stand on that rock where Moses stood. Sinners run and hide your face. Sinners run and hide your face. Run to the rocks and hide your face. The rocks won't have no hiding place. Crying holy to the Lord. Crying holy to the Lord. If I could, I surely would stand on that rock where Moses stood. Stand on that rock where Moses stood.
Good job, really good job. If you can find my song on that, because I don't think I know all the words to it, we'll do that one. And this will carry us through next Wednesday. We're gonna do one more. We're gonna do one more episode since we're into this and everything's going so smooth. We're gonna do one more episode, I think. What key did I do that in? Remember?
I think you do that in F.
All right. Let me see if I can get myself in F here. Help is on the way.
Try F.
Beautiful song.
Could be.
Come on. This F will be fine.
Okay.
I think we can do it now. If we can't, they'll excuse us and we'll get in a different key. How about
That's
that?
right. That's
That'd be
right.
all right.
That's right.
This is a Doyle Lawson Quicksilver song called "Help Is on the Way." A woman in the Bible days, her last meal almost gone. But God sent Elijah to make his word known. Said, woman, don't you worry, for God sent me today. And before you even ask him, help is on the way. Just hold on a little longer, help is on the way. A brighter day is coming for those who believe and pray. Help won't help tomorrow, you give up today. Just hold on a little longer, help is on the way. Troubles of this life combined, burdens get you down. You think no one's listening, you think no one's around. Just remember what his word says, just trust him and obey. Keep your eyes toward the heaven, help is on the way. On a little longer, help is on the way. A brighter day's coming for those who believe and pray. Help won't help tomorrow, you give up today. Just hold on a little longer, help is on the way. Hold on a little longer, help is on the way. Help is on the way. Thank you so much for episode number 3. We'll see you with episode number 3 about next Wednesday. And we're going to go ahead and do one more episode before we got everything all set up nice and neat here tonight. And then we'll be able to go all the way to next Sunday, won't we? Mm-hmm. That would be cool. And that may give us a time to get some more together. And we thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to push that little button on there where it says subscribe. And you can also do what to Larry's Garner Garage.
Follow.
You can follow. Yeah, you can follow.
Follow Larry's Grand Old Garage on Facebook.
Yeah. And that way you'll know what's coming up at all the time. So follow us on Facebook and subscribe for us on YouTube. Until next time, thank you so much. We got a lot of stuff to tell you. Okay? Thanks.
Jesus died on the cross from a dogwood tree. He gave his life and soul just you and me. The dogwood was never to grow strong and tall again, for the blood shed that day was on the wood from a dogwood tree.